Hello. Okay, so shout out to Sam at samm.org.uk, support after murder and manslaughter. I would shout these guys out every single episode if I could, every single chapter, every other line, every other word. They are phenomenal and they changed my life completely. Let me retell that. They gave me the tools to change my life completely. So, you know who you are. Thank you. Chapter 33. The atmosphere inside was terrible. Brenda stared into the distance whenever I was around her and hardly spoke to me. Little Jim passed me in the hall. "You shouldn't have done that," he said, without malice. Was he scared too? Why was everyone scared? What didn't I know? I walked into the kitchen. "Hi, Brenda. What should I do now? I'm late for tea," I asked honestly. "You can do whatever you choose, Tracy," she said, staring through the kitchen window. It kind of reminded me of my first memory of Mum. I was shocked. She sounded like she really didn't care. She wasn't even fake caring anymore. She just plain didn't give a shit. "Thanks," I said and walked towards the living room where Caroline and Rita were sat. Rita got up and walked past me to go to bed. "What's going on?" I said to Caroline. "We didn't know where you were," she said, shaking her head at me. "Did nobody get it? Was I fucking crazy?" I ignored her and went to bed. Suddenly all the grounding had stopped. I had purpose, and things were working okay. Caroline and Brenda's families still weren't talking to me, but to be fair, I'd hardly made the effort myself. The scout event I couldn't have previously, I was now allowed to go to. I really enjoyed Jamboree. There were hundreds of other scout groups and girls in scouting, which we'd never had, and it seemed very strange. It didn't seem right somehow. I'd not read about female soldiers, and didn't expect any in scouts. We were split into 2 dormitories, 6 people in each room. I was with 4 lads I didn't know, and 1 lad I'd got chatting to at my scout group, but wasn't in my patrol. I didn't know him well. One of the unknowns had a big mouth. He had an even bigger friend, who was actually quite smart. The first task was to decide what to call ourselves. Our group outside the dormitory consisted of Kate, a brown-haired girl, the mouthy kid, a big lad, and a quiet boy. I knew nobody until Kate introduced herself. They threw ideas around until the big lad came up with the Northern Lights. Kate's eyes glazed as she went into a dreamy world. Mouthy Kid said, yeah, man, like being high, man, and all that wicked shit. Normal Lad nodded and Big Lad looked at me. I knew nothing about the Northern Lights, but the way Gobby Kid went on and Kate's eyes glazed in her lightly tanned face, I guessed it was drugs. Yeah, man, fuck it, do it as long as they don't get it, we're on, I said, trying to fit in, sticking my thumb in the direction of the scout leaders. Yeah, whatever, Big Lad said. Kate gave me a smile, which was quite nice, but seemed more sympathetic than acknowledging. So what are the Northern Lights, man? Really? Gobby Kid shot off eyeballing me. I leaned in. Drugs, man, drugs. I must have sounded like a right loon. I probably looked it too. I was wearing green camouflage jacket, just like Rodney's from the TV show Only Fools and Horses, which had Staff Sergeant Brown on the side on the front pocket. I loved it, as my dad bought it for me, and I was wearing it everywhere. Another day on camp, and they had stalls out. One was boxing with giant gloves way too big to box with, but it caught my eye. Opposite was a magician. He made things in a box vanish. He did a few sleight of hand tricks. And then he hands a girl a wand, and as he did so, it immediately turned into flowers. Her face lit up and I was amazed. Her face fell when he took them back and gave her a balloon instead. I sat having a smoke out of sight, but watched him all day. I'd figured out all of his tricks apart from the box and the flowers. Here, lad, he said, calling me over. You've watched me all day. You like magic? He asked me. He was tall and thin and looked like a penguin. He was also polite, and I liked it. It all added up to being a good part of the show. You're the only one I've seen, sir, I said, being extra polite in case he told my scout leader he'd seen me smoking. What do you like most? He asked me. Well, I know how to do everything, apart from, I said, leaning on his counter and knocking the box forward, accidentally revealing a secret compartment at the back, as the penguin clutched at his stall and hid things rapidly again and stepped back apologetically. That, actually. Sorry, and the wand thing. Yeah, the wand. It's so fast, it's brilliant, I said, getting excited. He started laughing. Are you sure you want to know how it's done? He asked me seriously. Yes, please, sir, I said with a cough. He handed me the wand. and I examined it. Push the button, he told me. I did, and it transformed into flowers. Wow, cool, I said. How do I change it back? He took the flowers and began turning the end of them slowly until they vanished back inside the wand. Thanks, I said, suddenly depressed. Magic wasn't real. Their happiness was fake. They were tricked. It hadn't really changed into flowers. It was just a tool, and I had fallen for it. What an idiot. I thought about it all day. What was real? How do I know I'm real? Maybe that tree isn't a tree. Maybe it's a wolf, like the wand, and I just see a tree. That night in the dormitory, Gobby was on the bottom bunk opposite me talking to his mate who was on the top bunk above him. Guys, come on, it's late, I said, trying to sleep. Yeah, so? Gobby piped up. So go to sleep, I replied. And what if I don't, huh? I'm talking, la 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 la. He started raising his head higher with each word to be louder and closer to me. I ignored it. I carried on talking and laughing. Lads, shut the fuck up, yeah? I said, lay down. Trace, they won't be quiet. Don't get involved. They're just silly, quiet lad said from below me. Silly, silly, Gobby started chanting. Big lad joined in. He's not silly. You got a problem with him, then you got a problem with me. I heard movement as Big lad sat up on the top bunk. Fuck it. I sat up. Listen, Gobby, shut the fuck up. Last time I'm telling you, and shut your boyfriend up too. I stared at Gobby, keeping Big lad in my peripheral vision. Big lad was dangerous, but Gobby was really pissing me off. Or what? Big lad said, blocking out the white wall behind him, and simply by leaning forwards. Yeah, or what? Gobby mimicked, somehow resembling a tiny vulture. I took the fishing knife out of my pocket and opened it slowly so they could both see it. Now shut up, I said, laying down flat. You wouldn't dare, Gobby said half-heartedly. Without looking, I threw the knife at him, over the side of my bunk and down towards where his head should have been. It hit the post near him as I sat up, and I flipped my legs over the bunk just as Big Leg jumped down, so did I. Gobby was in shock, but not hurt. You want to go, dickhead? I asked him calmly, eye to eye. Get back in bed, or I'll cut your head off, and then you're friends, I said, closing the 2 inches between us and holding it there. It was important. I remained calm and looked like I'd do what I said I would do. Otherwise there would be violence. And to be fair, I would probably get my arse kicked. It was simple, though. I really didn't give a fuck. Leave it, Gobby piped up. Knife, I said, holding my hand out to Gobby as he passed it to me. Big lad jumped back onto his bunk as the dormitory door opened. Bedtime, lads, one of the scout leaders said. Sorry, I dropped my knife, I replied, giving Quiet Lad a wink. I wasn't going to hurt anyone, but Big Lad didn't know that. I was pretty much a loner from there on in, but 2 things stick out vividly, and are good, if not foolish, memories from the camp. We were all in the main hall. We'd had several scout leaders behind a long table against the wall, and all the scouts around various square tables dotted around. I was on the table in the corner, whilst Kate was in the opposite corner. We kept making eye contact. Long brown hair which curled as it fell. She was beautiful. I sat saying nothing, just listening to a lad talk shit on my table. Big lad kept approaching Kate's table and talking to the girls there. I had no idea what was being said, but Kate leaned forward to talk to him and turned her head towards me. Then she leaned back, pointed straight at me with a smile. She seemed happy, but what happened next involved me and Big Lad started walking towards me. This wasn't going to end well for one of us. He walked off with purpose, trying to be intimidating. My table mates vanished as he put his hands down in front of me. The entire room was now looking at us two. Kate hadn't taken her eyes off me. Yeah? Want something? I asked him. You, arm wrestle, he said, placing his elbow down and sitting in front of me. What the fuck? I thought. Chicken, he said. I looked at Kate. She nodded. I smiled and looked back at him. I'd never done this before, but I got the idea. Whoever slams the other guy down wins. He was a big lad, but I knew I had Aikido and the years of controlling pain to rely on. The Aikido meant I'd breathe properly, and the pain control meant the only way he'd win is if he broke my arm, which, to be fair, was quite likely. We clasped hands via thumbs and planted our feet apart on the floor, visible to everyone from beneath the table, apart from him. I showed no emotion, like being hit by Wenzel. He was strong, with blonde hair, shortly cut, blue eyes, and was trying to make himself look bigger. My hand hurt just with him holding it. I tried to adjust my grip, but I had no chance. He was like a vice. I stared, observing his eyes, and let my focus change. When I felt the supple vibration that was a little shake of adrenaline, I said, Ready? He did what I expected and tried to slam me straight away. He moved back a half-inch, giving me room to push forwards and get a better grip. I clamped down hard as I could. He'd moved me a half-inch down and then an inch. He smiled at me. Enough. I closed my eyes and visualized all the power in my legs running into my chest and into my arm, down into my wrist and fingers. I started to shake inside. Father killed mother, Alan's dead, you're useless, useless, useless. I repeated it over and over, waste of space, and back to useless, over in my head as I watched Alan's head hit the floor again and again. I opened my eyes and met his, as mentally I stood next to Pat's coffin and smiled at him across the table. His face changed to Wenzel's, then Clive's, and then Kate's, as my legs shook violently. I took a deep breath in and then audibly started chanting. It was the Ultimate Warrior's theme tune. I'd trained to it with Alan, and I'd seen it 1,000 times. My legs took all the adrenaline, and I could feel them dancing around, stomping uncontrollably, as my top half remained stationary and calm. Big Lad was in pain and red-faced, trying to force all his will into me. I needed a focal point to distract from the pain and keep my adrenaline going instead of falling. I looked at Kate, her green eyes somehow knowing what I needed, and continued pushing. You're quite strong, really, I told him, my voice even, trying to show no effort, keeping my eyes on Kate. You can't win, he growled through gritted teeth. My arm was killing me, but Kate was soothing me. Okay, if you say so, I said dismissively, ignoring the pain running through my arm. 10, shouted the scout leader. I didn't know what was happening until the rest of the hall started. 9, 8, and so on with each number. We both gave everything we had. 7. I watched Kate whilst the lad watched me. She was almost jumping up and down. 3. I turned to face Big Lad. I didn't have much left in the tank. 2, and 1. We both growled and relaxed. My legs continued their dance beneath the table. Although we'd relaxed our fingers, still took a few seconds to come apart. He rubbed his hand and arm where I simply let mine fall to my lap, show no pain. I'd fix it later. He stood up. You're okay, he said, holding his hand out to shake mine. I took it and found a new respect for him. You too, mate, I said, nodding. Dance, dance, our scout leader shouted. I walked to Kate, who was still watching me. Okay, one question, I asked her. Yeah, she said coyly, cocking her head. Damn, she was cute. What the hell was all that about? I asked. She laughed. He wanted to go out with me, and I said no. He started bragging, so I told him if he beat you in an arm wrestle, I'd go out with him, she said. How did you know he wouldn't? I asked her, gobsmacked. I didn't, she replied, smiling. I didn't get it, but hey, the girl was talking to me. We'd been arranged into a circle to dance, and I was besides Kate. I was happy with that. We had to dance in a circle one way, and then another, and then make the circle larger or smaller, all by holding hands or wrists with those next to us. Kate took my wrist, and my watch was in the way. A cheap plastic thing Brenda had got me. I couldn't undo it, and I wasn't taking the chance of her finding someone else, so I just ripped it off, breaking the straps, and chucked it on the floor. You're weird, she told me. I took her wrist and started dancing. Do you like weird? I asked her, concentrating on her thin little wrists and hair that routinely rose out in front of me. It's okay, she said. We danced and chatted for ages. Her fingers felt great in mine. She wore brown boots she kicked out in front of her whilst laughing. The Northern Lights thing, she asked, breaking away from the group and dancing with me alone. Yeah, I responded. Do you use drugs? She asked me. Can I be honest? I said. Yeah, I hope so. Well, to me at least, she smiled. I don't do drugs. I just don't know what the hell the Northern Lights were. We threw our heads back laughing. I don't like Jamie. He's rude, she said. Who's Jamie? I asked her. The lippy lad in your dorm. You don't know him? She asked me. Oh, don't worry, he won't bother you anymore, I said. And why's that? She said, smiling. He got lippy, so I shut him up, I replied. Really? I might have to try it, she joked. How? Chucked a knife at him, told him to go to sleep, I replied. She looked shocked and took her hand from mine. Don't worry, it didn't hit him, and the knife is fine, I said, trying to recapture the moment. Luckily, she laughed hard, just as the music stopped. Come into my dorm? She asked me. My arm hurt, and I was dying for a drink with all the excitement. I really didn't get it. Need a drink, let me get my cup, I told her. You can use mine, she said, with a cute as hell grin, her eyes widening. Won't be a minute, I said, running to get my cup. As soon as I reached my dormitory, I realised she was going to kiss you, you dickhead. downed the drink, and flew back to the hut where everyone was talking.